Yeah, yay.
Hello. My name is Gina from Gina Dallison Coaching, and I'm here today for episode 33 of the Healing Vibrations podcast. And I am really excited to be joined by the amazing and incredible and just super nice bloke, Matt Rowe. And it's always every time I speak to Matt, my vibrations are lifted up massively without exception. So expect to have your vibrations up leveled this evening, because it's we're going to be talking some good stuff. So Matt is an author, he's a coach, he's a triathlete, he's a healer of many things, and he's been called really to get the message out into the world that it is possible to heal yourself 100%. So Matt, thank you so much for being here, and I'm really excited about everything that's going to come out today, because
Gina, you are absolutely amazing. And this is why I always ask Gina to be a speaker in any of the symposiums or summits that I run, is because she's such a beautiful beacon of light. So thank you so much for this beautiful opportunity.
Well, an absolute pleasure, and the timings came out quite nicely, because of course next week I'm speaking at your event. So so tell us. I was part of the symptom-free MS Summit, which was the first event of that kind that you put on, wasn't it? So what was the motivation then behind that?
The motivation behind that is, how could I expand my container to help more, to serve more? If I stay small and stay in my office and just sit here and go, oh, I hope I can make a difference. I hope I really want to help. And then I'll have fringes of individuals that come and, healing them and walking through that. And I'm like, okay, how can I expand? How can I think bigger? How can I expand my container going out? So of course, as in good fashions, doing it alone, I only went this far. So then I reached out to my coach and I said, okay, how do we expand further? And she encourages me and coaches me to say, okay, let's go farther. And so that started to lead towards the summit, which was absolutely just, I'm in awe still, Gina. Like, we attracted over 1,600 people with diagnosed with multiple sclerosis specifically, to then go and take a powerful action inside of their lives. I mean, we watch people step out of wheelchairs. Wow. We watched that through all of this, individuals were regaining their life. And so, and that story continues. It's not just a singular event. It's multiple individuals from around the world that have done it. So it's just been I'm speechless. Yeah. And I'm in awe.
And it's sort of, it worked. Well, I imagine it'll work. So the more people that we can touch in this way, and to recognize that actually we do have options. We can heal ourselves. The path might not be easy, and it takes a lot of, soul searching, really, doesn't it? Getting to know yourself on such a deep level, and going through some of the stuff that you didn't really want to revisit, and you didn't want, the emotions are stuck there in you, and you don't even know what triggered it off sometimes, but you're still sort of, so you're wading through, or certainly this is my experience, wading through a sort of an icky mess that you can't quite grasp.
Well, and if we look at the basis of disease, is stress. So they've identified this for hundreds of years, as they've took a look at individuals with high degrees of stress equal dis-ease inside their bodies. And so, in my journey is, I remember going through 11 years of intense, unmitigated, perpetuated stress. So my sympathetic nervous system was always and regularly in a fight or flight freeze response. So then I would react to situations, and starting to understand that we actually become addicted to stress. Sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Like anybody on right now that's watching this is like, I don't want stress. I don't want to be addicted to it. But actually, at a cellular level, we are creating cells because our cells are constantly mass duplicating. Just from the time that we've been on this beautiful call together, you've created 1,000 new cells. It could be said that you've created tens of thousands of new cells throughout your body, but it's just a mass duplication machine. So if I create a stress cell with specific receptors now looking for that stress peptide to come into it, then all of a sudden, if every cell in my body is geared up, ready for the stressor, then all of a sudden it calls out for it. It starts looking for it. And we are one of the few mammals that can actually create stress by our thought.
No, that's true. And something that I was thinking about earlier, I've had a it's been a challenging few weeks for me, really. I don't know if you saw it on social media, but I managed to reverse my my car into the River Avon a couple of weeks ago because I couldn't get my foot off the accelerator. So
thank God you're safe.
Well, exactly. It could have, you know, I could have ran at speed into lots of other things. The river was a gentle, a gentle, if somewhat dramatic nudge that actually I need to sort of rethink things. So it has been a little bit of, and this morning I had a, I was meant to be having a PIP assessment, which is PIP in the UK. It's the personal independence payment. It's like the benefits that they give you for being disabled, I guess.
Okay.
You know, the idea is to help you get, you know, if I need an adapted car now, so that is the thing. So if I can get on the higher mobility of PIP, then effectively I get given a car, and it's a good thing to have, but the system doesn't really work. And actually, when I've started going through the system actually makes you sicker, because the system forces you to fight for your limitations, to talk about how bad it is on your worst day, to really, like, you know, labor the fact that everything feels more labored than it, you know, so it really gets you down on that. And then the system doesn't even, it's not joined up, so you get text saying one thing and a letter saying something else, and then this morning I was meant to have an online assessment. So then they outsource it to another company, which is even more detached, and it's just a horrible system that I've chosen to go in because I want a car. But then so I would like to get to a space where I just think, I don't need that. I can just get a car. But then also I think there's some value in going through the process, because I will talk about it, I will shout about it, I will do my best to see if I can influence in any way the change of it, because it doesn't work as good as it could do, is fair to say. Sorry, I hijacked that.
No, I think you've been given this beautiful opportunity to address something that you're not alone, that within so many of these areas and spaces, to say, okay, how can we do this better? Because isn't that our opportunity as human beings on this planet, to say, okay, how do we evolve? How do we make this system better for us and those around us? Even if we are diagnosed with a disease, no matter what is happening to us, we have an opportunity, aka choose how we want to be in that moment. And at that point, it's really hard when all of a sudden you've had those stress mechanisms that have perpetuated and built and gone over and over and over again. I remember my stress and my journey led me to paralyzing my right leg. I was an all-American triathlete. Wow. I was, of the side, I was one of the top 100 individuals in this country at the half Ironman distance of racing.
Wow.
And so with that, I thought I was invincible. My identity was I was an athlete. And within 10 seconds, I paralyzed my right leg from the waist down.
Wow.
And Gina, I wish I could tell you it was something miraculous, like a bear came out of the woods and I wrestled the bear. No, I was shoveling snow. I picked up a heavy load, and when I threw it, my spine did this.
Ooh.
That little moment get it to where no longer could I run. And I spent 4 months trying to get my leg to work again, watching 90% of the muscle out of my leg disappear. And so with that, I had an opportunity to heal it, but I had the opportunity to receive. Now, from all of my knowledge at that time was just go to the doctor, go see somebody, but I didn't want to go to a typical orthopedic doctor because they were just going to bolt it together.
Yeah.
I went to a neurologist who actually gave me a 50-50 shot of paralyzing me from the waist down or actually getting my leg to work again. And he got my leg to work again.
Wow.
So then took that over into a rehab and then finished Ironman. Since then, I've never raced another race. It was kind of like checking the box and being done with that aspect of my life and stepping into it. But did I let go of the stress? I didn't.
Right.
I grabbed
You must have
harder.
had such a mindset to get through that. And obviously somebody designed Ironman, there must be a lot of mindset stuff, because mindset's your thing really, isn't it?
Mhm. Yes.
That's your expertise, definitely.
And for years before that, I was teaching individuals how to have mindset in business and that type of stuff. And so now having to is almost like okay, now you get to prove all this work that you have done. And so, but it didn't take away the anger, the frustration, the stress, all of that ego side of the game that I would grab so
Yeah.
desperately
It's all the
onto.
push energy, isn't it? Rather than
It
the
is.
allowing energy.
Yeah, and receiving it. And so, and you said something very important right there, that push energy. And when I realized I can't push a rope, I can only pull it to attract what I want into my life. But I kept trying to push it. So after Ironman, I started this crazy sport called CrossFit. And of course, I got injured. When in that moment of injury was my step into how pharmaceuticals are overused. They put me on 3 months of antibiotics. And at the last pill that I was taking for antibiotics, because it was so intense, I started to experience 25 to 30 strokes a day.
Oh my goodness.
When I would stand up, the right side of my body would paralyze. I'd feel it from the top of my head come down throughout my body, and I couldn't walk out of a meeting. So I hid it from everybody. I was in denial.
Wow.
That was the scariest of any of them.
So what happens when how did you know you're having a stroke then?
You would feel it. You would feel it kind of start. Like, as I said, you'd feel it about top of your head, and it would be like the best way to describe it is like if you're being hooked up to a battery and you'd feel that pulse of that battery go through your body. So I would stand up out of the chair. I would immediately start feeling it go throughout my body. And this hand would close up. My right hand would close up. And then if I tried to walk within 10 seconds, I couldn't walk. My leg, I couldn't send the message to my leg to move forward.
Wow.
So then in there, I hid it from everybody. There are only two
Wow.
people on the planet at that time. I had them for 4 months, and there was only two people on the planet that knew it, my ex-wife and my business partner. So Gina, I would hide it. I would say things in a meeting that would get you talking so I could stand up and allow that 10 seconds to
Oh my
pass
goodness.
so I could leave the room. But this started me on
Super
a journey.
resourceful.
Well, at some point, it's like I didn't want something else to take away who I was. But I truly believe this was the start of my multiple sclerosis diagnosis back in 2013.
Yeah, it sounds like it, doesn't it?
That when I went through it, I kept avoiding it and avoiding it. And so, but it put me on a path of learning about food as medicine. And so essentially, when I set into there, what would antibiotics do? It would strip all the bacteria out of your body, right? Good and bad.
Yeah.
I come to find out that the good bacteria feeds your brain. And also the good bacteria outnumbers your cells by 100 to 1. So
Wow.
philosophically, Gina, we're just bacteria.
Yeah.
your skin, your body, your everything within us. So I started to say that. So I'm like, okay, let's start putting good bacteria into my body. And I started taking care of my wound a different way and started to get myself back into homeostasis. And it took a couple of months, but when I did, the strokes went away. Now, when you look at neurologists, which are fantastic, I love my doctors, but when you look at neurologists, they wanted to solve the symptom and not get to the root cause of why it was happening. But it was my opportunity to go to the root cause. Took that in my life. And then I started to notice as 2017 was approaching, so 4 years later, I noticed I wasn't walking very well. I noticed that when I went on a hike, I could really only walk 800 steps. And at that time, Gina, I was counting every one of them.
Wow.
And so then I couldn't walk that far. And then I was noticing that my mood and my anger and frustration just kept building and building, because once again, I felt that I was losing my independence. I was losing who I was. So I went into the doctor, had an MRI, and they diagnosed me with primary progressive multiple sclerosis.
Oh my goodness.
And gave me 6 months before I would be in a wheelchair. And in that moment, I'm like, nope, that is not me. And I decided in that moment, I'm not going to do what they say to do, because it was only 27% effective.
Yeah.
When you look at the placebo effect as 40% effective, I'm like, okay, I think there's another way to do this. There's another way to heal it. So then I went on a mission from 2017 to now up to 2021 to say, okay, how do I reverse it? To this day, I live basically symptom-free. Besides a couple of little things, I'm still walking. I'm on a mission right now to lift 1.5 million pounds because I'm a weightlifter. So I'm like, I wonder if I could do that. And so now I'm at 1.35 million pounds, 150,000 more pounds in a month. I'm there. Wow. So really, when I started to take a look at this, I started to live more in this level of possibility. But you said something very important. To do it, I had to go in. I could only go so far with food and everything that you read in medical medium, and you read, Matthew Embry's Best Bet Diet cookbook. And I was doing all of these pieces, but it got me so far.
Yeah. To
cross that hurdle, I needed to go in. And it was the hardest work I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
Most rewarding too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sort of speechless on it all, really, because I'm still very much in the thick of it. So it's all very, I get glimpses of, wow, yeah, we're nearly there. And then it seems to me like I've lost grip and I'm back down the hole. I'm like, what? Was that even a dream? Was that even real? And
and we just keep surrendering, because the only way out, as we know, is through. If we look at our life, if we have a situation that comes up in our life, if I treat it the way that I would have done it in the past, which is hide from it, bury it, walk around it again, avoid it, numb it, do whatever it was, but that didn't make the situation go again. So as soon as the trigger event happened again, I still reacted. Creating stress created
same patterns, isn't it? So it's recognizing your patterns and the ones that aren't helpful, and trying to change them to patterns that moving you towards that where you want to be going, rather than where you just happen to be moving towards.
In that compassion when you recognize it. So really at that aspect is I started to take a look at it and say, for what it is, I started to ask myself questions. Is this true? Is my stress over that situation, whether it was a family member that came in that said something, whether it was a feeling I had within myself, I started to really recognize it was my perception of the situation. And when I asked myself the question, is this true? I came to find out 100% of the time, it was never true.
Wow.
It just was. And so then it gave me an opportunity to then take a look at it and say, how do I want to be in this situation? So, the there's something that I'll teach is, mantras in this. As you are early on in your journey, give yourself a tool of a mantra. Then start taking a look at your beliefs. And your beliefs is not just the mindset or the words that you say. I'm going to say there's a sub-belief behind that. So when we say words, we get to explore it. So if I say the words, I am healed, there might be people on right now that as if they told themselves that, they're like, I am healed, but there was this that happened. There's always a but.
Yes. Yeah.
There's always a but in all these statements and comments. So it's exploring those buts, is going, oh, okay, I had a hesitation. I'm going to explore that, what it is. And we find it's actually something that's driven from when we were children, because we create our neural pathways at a very young age, between the ages of 3 to 14 years of age. And there's a couple buffer years in there, depending on your situation. But from 3 to 14 years of age is where you actually create your aspect of the way the world is run. It's kind of crazy. And to think that if you walked into a grade school with a bunch of 12-year-olds and you're like, all right, what is this year going to look like? That's essentially what we're doing, but as adults. So we don't really take a look at it. We react to situations instead of taking a look at it and saying, okay, how do I want to be in that scenario?
Yeah.
So there's a lot more that goes into this, but when you uncover the layers of this onion, what you talked about is when you see it in that moment, you're like, oh, I see who you are. I see what that is. And you pull that weed out and you plant a flower in your mental garden.
Mm-hmm.
But we have this opportunity. Nobody's telling you what to think when you wake up in the morning. You do.
Yes, that's true.
We all do. And so not from a shame or blame or, on that side, it's you're like, okay, this is how I want to be. So when we think about it with everything that we're doing, we first need to be what we want. I love, the clients, I love individuals out there. They're like, if I had $1 million, I would be that. Well, what if you can't be a millionaire until you are being that first?
Yeah, so it's that be do have sort of paradigm shift, isn't it? And
exactly.
Yeah, and it's so powerful, but it's I do have to keep reminding myself that's because I think certainly from my experience, it's almost like that negative thoughts, and those thoughts that to keep you like feeling well, like you were saying, it's the stress, it's the addicted to that stress thought. Well, it somehow feels comfortable thinking those thoughts. It somehow is familiar, and of course it's the familiarity piece that we're learning to de-stress, isn't it? It's learning to be okay with uncertainty, okay with not knowing what's going to come next, because if you live in a friendly universe, it doesn't matter. It's like you're sliding down a wonderful slide of life. Well, when they talk about the river, don't they? So you're flowing down the river instead of trying to swim or row up, or drive your car upstream. Yeah.
And we get these little things that show up in our lives that just reminds us of the past. So if we think about it from the law of vibrational attraction and that kind of thing, anything we fear, so I'm going to take a step back from that. There's really only 2 emotions in this world, fear and love. Mm-hmm. Now think of fear. Fear is anger, aggression, guilt, shame, depression, all that stuff you fear. And what you fear, you attract to yourself. What you're worried about, you're actually bringing to yourself. Take a look at parking spots, to money, to anything, to healing, to all that stuff. If we sit in our worries and like, I'm so worried, or I'm fearful that I'm not going to be able to drive, or I'm not going to be able to walk again.
That was definitely one of my a fear.
Vibrationally, when you send it out, the universe, God, source, universe, whatever you believe, is like, okay, I gotta give you the vibration you're putting out, which is fear.
Yeah.
Right there, if we're aware of it, I can look at it for what it is. And when I look at it, it begins to disappear. So I'm like, oh, I see you, fear. And then we can start to lean towards love, the other emotion, which love is compassion. Love is forgiveness. Love is joy. So as we start to be love, then all of a sudden love gets attracted to us, right? All those moments, and we can sit and we can imagine driving, or we can imagine being healed before we are healed. Remember, be, do, have.
Yeah.
And we start taking little steps and actions. But in this conversation, I talked about the sub thought, the one that we are not aware of, the one that's hidden deep within our midbrain as a subconscious thought within that midbrain. So if we create by first we think of the desire we want. Then we'll speak it in our outspoken word. We may tell a spouse, husband, a spouse, sibling, partner, whoever it is, we'll tell them that. Maybe we'll post things on Facebook, or maybe even in our thoughts that we have, we will start speaking it in our word, and then we take action. Then we're like, you know what? I feel, you know what? I get this like reminder to do like biocidin, or I remember this reminder, like fill out this form this way, or just a little action. So if you think about just increasing by just 1%, just taking a little step, and it's a very gentle little step with love. Therein lies the challenge. Because I remember when I started this, Gina, I would have the thought, I would speak the word, and then I wouldn't do anything. And then I get frustrated. It's like, man, I'm thinking the good thoughts. Why isn't this happening? Well, the world changes with action that we take, and just loving, it doesn't have to be like dig a ditch. It doesn't have to be, like this gregarious large action. It can be this little tiny step. But oftentimes my belief was I'm not good enough. I can't do this. This is what's going to happen. And all the negative thoughts started to come in.
But do you also think as well, even before those thoughts, if people don't know where they're going, then it almost doesn't matter, does it? So so I suppose the work that I'm doing, and I'm sure you do the same thing, is like getting people clear on actually where do you want to be going? Because we're all going somewhere, and we all know this. There's more and more films coming out. I've been watching all these things with my youngest son about multiverses, people popping in different time zones, because this is the thing that I'm trying to come to terms with, really, the concept of time, and how. So the analogy that came to me earlier was the idea that we're all in our own movie or book. We're also, but we're not the character that's being played. We're actually the writer that's created the character.
Yes.
So we're not the actor. We're not really the character. We're the writer that's playing out. If you could have anything that you wanted, or if you wanted what adventure that how does anybody write a book? So there's always the hero's journey, isn't there? There's that story piece that we all like totally resonate with, and that's in our DNA, according to Brené Brown, isn't it? Storytelling and the need for story. And if we haven't got all the facts, we'll make up a story. So our inner brain feels satisfied with them. So,
I love how you said that. And with that analogy, I love the movie Alice in Wonderland. Alice drops on the rabbit hole, and she comes upon the Cheshire Cat in a fork in the road, and she asks the cat, which way should I go? The cat goes, well, where are you going? And she goes, well, I'm really not quite sure where I'm going. And then the cat says, it doesn't matter what road you take. And so often in our lives, we will tell ourselves a story. And as human beings, we want to be right. We want to justify where we are at. We don't want to be wrong. We don't want to feel bad. We don't want to feel shamed. So what we'll do is we'll tell ourselves a story, and oftentimes we'll limit our thought process. So we'll use words.
Yes, because we tell us the stories then relate into, this is where your beliefs come in, isn't it? And actually, if we believe that you can't do that, or one time you when you were running, you fell over and you had bad memories about it. It got stuck in your psyche somewhere as a bad thing to happen. Don't run anymore. You know, you can see how things like that. Somebody telling you my thing, or one of my things is somebody telling me that I couldn't sing when I was about 8 years old, and that was it. You know, every time there was an opportunity to sing, I was like, oh no, I can't do that.
Exactly. And think of that language you used right there. And that's a beautiful story. Is you almost want to go to the person and say, yes, you are a beautiful singer, that with this moment, but then all of a sudden from 8 years on forward, you're telling yourself the belief, I can't.
And just the opposite, if somebody had actually said, oh my goodness, you've got a beautiful voice, then that would be in my psyche. And then the more I'd be singing in, the more people would say it. And it's that ever, exactly that. You do create your own reality.
Right. And so then you are the genie in the bottle. So with it all right now, so anybody watching or listening right now, if you're in this moment where you are aware of that little 8-year-old girl that was told you're not a good singer. So then you have a sub thought, I am not a good singer. I can't sing. Now, granted, you're not saying this all the time, but it doesn't even come up, but that thought is in there. And that thought is
every time something comes up that says, you know, be part of this or join the choir, it'd be like, no, that's just, it's the pure acceptance that that's something that is impossible for me to do.
Well, and that's right there, is that it's impossible for me to do. So then you have the thought or a desire, oh, I'd really like to sing in the Christmas choir or holiday choir this year. Then that desire comes in, then you start to tell, let's say you start to tell yourself, or you tell your husband, hey, I'd love to sing in that choir. Then that sub thought's like, you know, you can't sing.
Yeah.
And then it's just that little 8-year-old girl saying that. So then to go after that thought, to reverse it, you have to run that recipe backwards. You first have to take action.
Yeah.
So for example, if you really want to sing in the choir, you would go inquire about the choir and find out when they're meeting.
Well, what I did do was speak to somebody I know who does music teaching, and I went and had a singing lesson.
That's beautiful. I love it. So then in that moment, you took action. Then just in what you're doing right now, you're speaking it in your word. Now your thought comes in, I am a singer.
Well, I certainly can be a singer anyway. That's thought. I think, it's it was. I only spent half an hour with him. He told me that little boy was wrong, and so that was nice. And unfortunately, due to car issues, I've not been to see him again, but it's definitely shifted that belief. There's room in that when I get wheels again. That's definitely something I'm doing.
So then you're not, so that sub thought that was hidden in there that kept you from taking action is now addressed, and it dissipates away. But you did that by first taking action, speaking it in your word, and then having it in your thought. Now, over time, what will happen is now you can just think it, speak it, do it in your word or in your actions that you take. So then you could reverse that recipe the other way. But if it's not pairing out the way you wish, start with action first. Action, word, thought. So then as we do this more and more, it becomes easier as we do it. Now, what I talk about is a sphere of possibility. Everything you have right now, Gina, is inside that sphere of possibility. Everything you want is outside of it. To get what you want outside of it, we need to expand our sphere. But every time you touch on the edge to expand it, your subconscious mind comes in and goes, no. What are you doing? Like, you can't do that. You know that you're not a singer. You know that, all this stuff. And once again, our thought becomes our reality. Yeah. So then with it, we have an opportunity to press on that sphere. This is when I see individuals step out of wheelchairs. Like, let's say a woman that was in a wheelchair for 3.5 years After having this conversation and having her come to this realization of where it was, she steps out of the wheelchair, has her husband take video, and she walks around the room with no walking sticks, no walker, just walking around the room.
Wow. Is that somebody that worked with you?
Yes.
Oh
And
my
I'm
goodness.
like, of course she did.
Yeah.
And she sits back down. Now, in the next moment, she goes, for a week after, I could not walk. Well, I said, well, you were in training. When was the last time you physically walked like that? And she goes, oh, it's been 3.5 years. Well, the muscles atrophy. You realize that what you just did, it was run a marathon, even though it was just around your room. And giving yourself that compassion to say, okay, I need to rest now. And as she rested, she took it even farther. And so to the story of she walking 900 steps around her kitchen with her grandkids all around. So all of these aspects starts with very, very little steps, but that belief is so strong that when we're doing it, our belief puts us on a bridge of knowing. That's the actions that we take. And the more and more we take these actions, we are being it. So then we'll do it without thought. Like now, I bet you go to your singing class and all that stuff. You're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to do it.
Well, I'm not quite there yet, because I haven't been to any more since. But it's like, yeah, I will be. Yeah, of course.
Of course you are.
Yeah,
of course you are.
Yeah.
And so really, because you are being it. So now let's take it into an aspect that's a little bit different. Let's talk about healing.
Okay.
Healing a paralyzed leg, healing strokes, healing multiple sclerosis, healing something that we were told was impossible. Same recipe.
Yeah.
So using the words "I am healed" versus "I am healing," which one, when you say the words "I am healed," where's the but you're recognizing in the back of your mind? Well, I'm healed, but I'm diagnosed with an incurable disease.
No, I think what would come up for me is I'm healed. That doesn't feel congruent if I'm healing, because I think there's a, and I think healing is a bit like saying I've lived.
Yes.
It's, yeah, and you wouldn't, yeah, if maybe at the end of your life then we say we're healed, but I don't know. We move on to another sphere and go through another experience. I think, I don't know.
That's right. Yeah, we just get another opportunity.
Yeah.
But I love how you said at one point you were aware that "I am healed" might be too far for you, which is fine. There's no shame, guilt, anything with it. But I love how you took that moment and say, "I am healing," and you surrender and let go to "I am healing." So then you're taking those little steps. You're taking those little action steps. And you know what? I should be exploring this pharmaceutical. I should be exploring this vitamin or this naturopathic way of, addressing the Epstein-Barr virus, or you're listening to intuition. You're changing your energy and you're changing your vibration into a world of possible. So you've taken now impossible and you've changed it to "I am possible." And this is the journey of healing. And it's a journey. When we look at all of it, I think in our society today, we want to take the magic pill.
Yeah.
I have a headache.
Yeah.
Give me a headache.
Yeah.
Or give me an Advil. I've got this. Give me a pill to fix it. And we put such a reliance on pharmaceuticals, and we put such a reliance on somebody else fixing it. But what if that answer to heal is within here? So now a diagnosis that is seen as incurable now just comes into an opportunity to say, okay, what is this diagnosis trying to tell me? Where am I not paying attention to? And so really taking a look at it is when I started to take a look at this, the stress that was in my life. It wasn't until I looked at the stress for what it was and really did that deep work within, loving myself fully, did multiple sclerosis start to reverse.
So and this is another thing that I'm working on, I guess, is that thought of loving yourself, how to love yourself. And I say that I don't beat myself up. I have done.
Okay.
Yeah. And
We all do.
and
We're
I
not
think
alone.
it's almost trying to bring those thoughts to the surface though, because they're hidden so
Mhm.
far in. You don't know that you beat. It's not like
Yeah.
you sit there going, "Oh, Gina, you idiot." I mean, sometimes, but
Yeah.
yeah. But they sort of run on, and underline that actually, yeah. And actually, when you start, you write them down.
Mhm.
And then I've done an exercise where you flip it around. So write down, why it is you can't achieve what it is that you want, because
Yeah.
I'm not this enough, I'm not that enough, because I'm no good at this, because blah, 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 blah. And then you actually read it out loud as if you were talking to somebody else.
Mhm.
And imagine you're speaking to somebody like your child or your mum or your sister or something like that. And actually,
Right.
you can't, you just realize how bad that actually you're, and it's not just what you say, it's the intention behind it, isn't it? It's the intention. It's
Yes.
just like you're doing wrong, you're doing wrong, you're doing wrong. But what
Mhm.
happens if we had an intention was like, yeah, you're doing right, you're doing
Mhm.
right, and
I am enough.
yeah, and becoming,
I am
and
enough.
it's being more conscious, bringing more,
Mhm.
yeah, but it takes practice.
It does, because this is not what were brought up, trained to say, oh, did you think of your thoughts? Did you know you're enough? You know you're really good. We all have our stories of the past that came in, the
Yeah,
kid in the playground, the
yeah,
sibling that we had, our parents that may have
yeah,
said
the horrible
something.
teacher, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, there's everyone's had something or somebody, and somebody's had, some people have had some real bad
oh,
stuff, go on in their
absolutely.
childhood. So I feel very blessed.
Mhm.
Um,
And
but
we're not downplaying any of those, because they're all big in their own severity. One person's trauma is not any different than another person's trauma. They're all severe in their own right,
well,
because
especially in their bodies as well, isn't it? Because that's
exactly, we actually bring it in at a cellular level. Great book called The Body Keeps Score. We'll actually begin to react biologically to a stressor before the stressor is even there.
yeah,
So when we take a look at this, it gives us an opportunity to say, okay, what is this? I see it. And I love how you said, write it down. What you're really doing is you're looking at it, and they've proven in physics and relativity. And when they look at a specific atom or an energy, when I focus on that, it disappears or it changes.
yes, yeah.
So
I'm
just
still
the
trying to get my
fact,
head around that. Yeah, the old observer effect, isn't it? The slit thing. Yeah, I don't really understand it, but
exactly.
it's
So just by you writing it down and being aware of it allows it to disappear, dissipate within your life. You can write it down and burn that piece of paper to get a visual representation of watching the smoke dissipate
yeah,
and thinking of your thought dissipating with it. So there's all fun tricks you can do with it. But the act of you just being aware of it is such a powerful moment. So with any of my clients, our first step is become aware.
yeah,
Become aware of what you value. What do you really love in this world? I want you to be aware of who you are and the brilliance and the
yeah,
incredible soul that you are. And it gives us this beautiful opportunity to say, okay, I want this thought. I am possible. I can do this. And it just takes practice. And as we do this over a period of time, all of a sudden, I love my clients that are like, I had one woman out of England that she wanted to leave the house. She goes, I've been stuck in my house for 3.5 months. I've never left.
wow,
And as we did our work together, she gets on our next call and she's like, guess what I did? She's like, I left the house. I put the rubbish out. I walked around my driveway and I went back inside, and the grin on her face and the possibility got me crying. She's crying, and all this while we're releasing all of this positive energy that's going out, because all of a sudden in that moment, she became possible.
yeah,
And so she's now, if she's a little symptom that comes up or something comes in, she treats it with compassion and says, oh, I must have gone a little bit too far the day before. I am in training or a negative thought starts to creep in and she just is aware of it. And she goes, oh, I see you for what you are. And then she knows the strategy and she goes into her toolbox that we built. And then she's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to use this tool, that tool, and that tool. And then very quickly, she goes to address. Now, the first time we do this, because it takes practice, it might take a week. You have a negative thought comes in.
I was going to say, for anybody who wants to try this stuff, it's yeah, it takes a while, and some of them are quite hidden down as well, aren't they? You've got rid of a couple, and then the same one will come up, but it'll be a slightly different flavor.
Yeah.
My coach likes to say, yeah, a different flavor of it. Yeah,
because your subconscious is brilliant, because your subconscious is you. Your subconscious knows every little crook, every little cranny, every little crumb, every little thing. It's like, well, I want to feed this. I don't want Gina to expand any further because I just want to stay where I'm at because that's comfortable.
yeah, yeah.
Because your subconscious has one job, is to keep you alive. And anything you expand out there is risk. Now, granted, we all know we're not going to be hurt. We're not going to die. So upon that is just by being aware of it. The first time you do it, it might take a week, a month of really taking a look at it and doing this work. Over time, it becomes easier. That I'll have clients that'll be like, oh yeah, it was like almost in the moment. They saw it, they're like, nope, that's not what I want. Replace it, boom. And they went right on past it. I'll have clients that'll just the goal is where we're headed, is to be it. Just stand up out of the wheelchair.
Then your identity shifts, and you mentioned it earlier, didn't you, when you were talking about you identified as an athlete, and well, you always have, you still do. You are
essentially
exactly,
yes. That's in my neural pathways. So if I'm like, okay, I'm an athlete. So when I started to heal, I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm like, well, I like lifting weights. So let me see if I can do this when I lift weights. Let's see if I can do this over here. Let's see if, and I really don't have much of a desire to run triathlons anymore. I've run over 100 of them. Wow. And I'm like, nah, I checked that box. So let's go experience a different aspect of life and saying, okay, what is possible for me right now? And expanding that sphere of possibility and just keep pressing on those edges. And that just becomes this beautiful journey of being.
Nice.
So it's all of this stuff. It is, I don't care who is watching today. I don't care where you're at. I don't care if you're in a wheelchair. I don't care if you're bedridden. There's stories and stories of individual, from Diana Caputo to Janine Troutman to Dr. Terry Walls, to all these individuals diagnosed with multiple sclerosis that have gone from bedridden, couldn't move,
really quite ill, really
to
quite
walking. Ill. But I love the story. I do programs with an individual called Dr. Terry Jacklin, incredible soul out of Canada. And when she looked at it, she had the opportunity of meeting Terry Walls, like the big guru in our industry. And Terry, in a conversation, they're sitting and they're talking, they're having a cup of tea. And as they're talking, she goes, what everybody doesn't see is the picture. What they see is the picture of me in the bed, not being able to walk. And then they see a picture of me riding a bicycle. That span of time was 10 years between the first picture to the next picture. Giving yourself compassion and love during this is such a powerful tool, that as you go to take these steps, as you go to do something different, as you go a little bit farther, compassion is your ally. Because remember, you have a choice to go towards fear, or you have a choice to go towards love. So thinking about all those aspects of love, even doing mirror work. Next time you go to a restroom, look in the mirror, and I want you to look in your own eyes, deeply in your own eyes, and say the words, I love you, and fall in love with yourself, knowing that you are okay.
I think it's I'm okay with the mirror stuff. I am okay. I'm being more conscious about loving myself, but also I'm learning what it actually feels like to be in love. I don't think I've really had that with another person, or not that I've given as much as what I think I'm capable of, if that makes sense. But and what it is to love.
I think you are touching on to something very important. I think a lot of us don't know what it means to love. Now, at a conceptual level, we know it.
Yeah.
But in a level of knowing that I cannot require love from another individual any more than I love myself. So I'll say that a little bit different of a way. My level of my own self-love is the level of love that I will receive from another individual. And when we look at ourselves on this planet, we only have one requirement in this world, and that is love. Now think about it. When we are born, from the minute we're born, our desires to be held, our desires to be loved. And when we're loved, we get food, shelter, all that stuff. Now, there was some studies done in orphanages, overpopulated orphanages in Russia, where the kids had a roof over their head, they were clothed, their diapers were changed, they received everything on a physical aspect of what they needed. But they started to notice these children at 18 months of age started to die because the orphanages were so overrun that their caregivers did not have enough time to love every child and give every child the love that they so desperately wanted and needed. I had the pleasure of knowing a couple of these kids from these orphanages. I have friends that adopted 2 of them. And with it, you definitely see these effects. So really, in our life, we have that one requirement of love, but we're not taught growing up how to love ourselves.
No.
We're told words by our parents: don't be selfish. Don't do this. Pay attention to your brother. It's not just all about you. You can't do that. And so you're pushed away from it. Then when we go outward in our lives, we want people to love us. So we'll go to a partner or a husband or a wife and go, please love me, love me, love me, love me. And if we have an empty, bottomless well of love that we want filled, they could pour a fire hose of love into that well. And we'll feel it touch the edges. We'll feel it come up a little bit on the bottom, but it never really solves all of it. We're just like, yeah, love me, but I'd love it if you love me this way. There's been books written on it, the 5 languages of love. How do you love somebody? Yeah. But what if the real secret, because I can take a thimble of my own love, the sewing thimble, that little cup, I can take a thimble of my own love and pour it in that same well, and it overflows. So once I fully start loving myself from within, with no buts, just really sitting there in this full love aspect, then all of a sudden, the love that I receive is just icing on the cake. It's just an aspect of it. It's part of it. And I am willing to surrender and receive that love that comes to me. And I've had multiple instances in my life where I've had an opportunity to do this. And so, but it first started here. It wasn't anything externally that I was looking for. It was looking for it in here and essentially falling in love with myself. When I fell in love with myself, Gina, I used to use walking sticks when I walked. And I can't tell you the day it happened. It just hit me by surprise that I remember leaving the house. I had to do a bunch of errands. I had to walk around a bunch, and I left my walking sticks at my house. And I forgot them. Had no issues walking around. Did not need them. And for the last year and a half, I've never used them.
Wow. So there's me, voice in the back of my head shouting, why can't you love yourself more?
Okay, so that's a level of, so that little voice, and all of a sudden it's that judgment.
Yeah.
And they all right there is just an opportunity to explore it. It's saying, oh, where did you come from? And then really address it, is saying, okay, was that a voice that I heard from my past? Was it, could be your mother, your father, your grandmother, that why can't you? Like, think of a moment of in there where it said, where you heard those words saying, it could be something from a teacher. Why can't you?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that'll come to me over the, or maybe it doesn't have to. It's
And that is the work, is
Yeah.
that is this beautiful work that we do as we explore it. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm
no,
not
no,
saying that
it's not.
some
Yeah,
stuff comes up, but definitely having somebody that is in, you know, a coach or somebody that can help you rise through that level, saying, oh, okay, that's why. I see it for what it is. And then really sitting, it could be through meditation, saying the words, I love you, saying the words, I am love.
yeah,
Making a list, like writing it down. What's everything that I require for love? I remember making my list years ago, or about 2 years ago. I made my list and it was over 90 some items.
so what you require for love.
What I required for love is how I love myself. This is what I looked at, because at this time I'd been recently divorced. And I was married 21 years, Gina, and my ex-wife asked me for a divorce. And I remember hearing a voice in meditation that came in that said, look, you can approach this divorce with anger, shame, guilt, depression, fear, and judgment, or you can approach it with joy and love. Your choice. And so in that moment, I took my breath and I vowed to approach life with joy and love. And then the next, it came back, a couple of days later, and it's like, why don't you make a list of what you want? You don't even know what you want. Like what you were talking about earlier is like, if you don't know what you want,
how do you know where you're going?
You have no idea where you're going. And so really of making that list, and I made that list of everything I wanted with love and what it meant in all this stuff. And I still have the list to this day. And I remember a buddy coming to me saying, oh, you should be happy with 80% of that getting salt. And I'm like, no, it's 100%. I love myself too much to, negotiate or to shrink myself back down. And I said, what's meant to happen will happen with this compassion and love. And as I walked down this road 3 weeks later, I met somebody that came into my life. And I am still in awe a year and a half later after all of this, that I look at it and she met 100% of what was on my list.
Wow.
And I find out later she made a list 2 years before and I met that. So when you look at this, when you look at vibrational energy and how we send it out, we don't know how we are going to receive it, but surrendering to it.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing that I haven't quite sustained, that the whole idea of surrendering. I think I get the concept. Well, I do get the concept. Then actually doing it.
Yes. Oh, you're not alone, Gina. I have my moments. I think like last week I had my moment, like, what's that? I'm doing something, really big. And I'm like, well, God, would it really work? And all of a sudden the negative thoughts come in. They don't go away.
Yeah.
It's just you treat them differently.
I think, well, I suppose it was a bit like this morning when I had that setback. So I didn't have the meeting that I thought I was going to have. And that came with, interestingly, I wouldn't call myself an anxious person, but there was anxiety came up as a result of that, which was all outside of I couldn't do anything about it. So you have to read that acceptance piece is like, so I did everything that I could. I made the phone call, I rearranged it. I wrote a post about it, about how awful the system is and how it doesn't help us heal. And and give myself some time, I guess.
I think that's absolutely beautiful, is you gave yourself compassion in that moment to say, okay, what is this? What am I not looking at? Where am I not? Where am I avoiding this situation? Where am I pushing it to the wayside and trying to bury it again, sweep it under the rug? But what I love what you did, Gina, is you looked right at it and said, okay, this is just an event. And when we surrender to it, we look at the world as there are no coincidences.
No, and I just think now it wasn't the right time. It will happen or it won't happen. But yeah, it took a couple of hours for me to get there and to readjust, and I didn't quite go down a deep dark hole, but there was I had a bath and looked after myself.
Well, and this is the beautiful aspect is, everything happens in perfect time. And I love how you said that, is that maybe that perfect timing was the universe was waiting for you to get your mind right before it could bring something else. So if you would have taken that call with fear or worry or whatever it was, I'm not going to be able to get this, or I'm not going to be able to do this. Maybe the universe is like, hold on, Gina, let's get your mind right before you have that call to make sure that you are attracting that possibility.
What you want, actually. And if you're going to have what you want, then
right. Yeah. So, and especially with an incurable disease, this just gives us a beautiful opportunity to say, okay, I am this way. This is the energy I'm putting out there. This is how I'm going to do it. This is how I'm vibrating right now. Because the universe speaks to you, as you very well know, in vibrations. It doesn't take a look at the words you have. It looks at how you feel. So if I feel like it's not going to work, well,
and
wish is my command.
And I know this, and I'm still practicing the idea of like, it's not what you do that matters, it's how you feel about what you do. So if you're going to do anything, and you'll know, Matt, there's a lot of stuff in building your own business other than just having amazing conversations like this and coaching people, which is what we really would like to spend the majority of our time doing. But there's other things that you have to make that happen running in the background, isn't it? All the things that you put out, because we're content providers. We want to provide hope and inspiration out there, and that's what this podcast is about. That's what your we haven't even talked about your symposium. So the symposium is a move on from the summit, isn't it? Because you did the summit in the summer.
Right. The first annual summit was this summer, so I'm going to run a second summit this next summer. So summits happen in the summer and symposiums happen in holidays. And
is that the rules? Is it?
That's the rule. I had to call it two different things, is because really the symposium is just as powerful. It's 6 days, 20 beautiful healers and teachers, including yourself, that are speaking at this symposium and helping individuals with multiple sclerosis live impossible. To go, okay, I'm going to take this up. And it's an absolutely free symposium. So every individual will have 24 hours to view everyday segments. So it's plenty of time to view it. And everybody's talk is anywhere from 40 minutes to 30, about 40 minutes right there.
They're not that long, are they? Yeah.
But it's such valuable information, whether it's going to give you the encouragement to take a step or change your way of possibility in your life. Or let's say you learn something from one of the doctors that, we have 4 doctors that are a part of this. I have a master's in therapy that is a part of the summit as well.
Wow.
So as we look at these little aspects and these little pieces, maybe there's one word, one phrase, one thing that helps you take that one little step. So this is
a bit like you two talk about taking the action before you. Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's free. All you got to do is just sign up for it. And
that's your action taken.
That's it. That's a beautiful action that you can take after all of this. And, and it's all over Facebook and all over around, that if you just look for me on Facebook, you can't miss it. Not see it. You can't miss it.
And the same here. I'm talking about it a lot at the moment as well. So along with 19 other people. So
and it's absolutely amazing that we're attracting these individuals and bringing them hope. But like you said, what we love is this work. is it's my heart's work that when you watch somebody step out of a wheelchair or
Oh
walk
my
farther
goodness.
than they've
Yeah.
ever walked, or really have a boundary conversation with somebody that is filled with love.
Yeah.
And it just lifts your heart. I'm like, and I remember, and I still say this is again, it's like, okay, let's do this again. I want to do this again. Let's have this conversation again
Yeah.
because it's our heart's work. It's what we were called to do.
No, it's really exciting. So that is taking place from the 5th, isn't it? It's being
Yep.
set out. What times of the day is it going to be released?
So every morning I will release it at 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
your time zone every morning.
Oh, in our
Um,
time zone.
yes,
Oh,
I'm
cool.
trying to figure out a way. Now my tech is working on it, like really at 6 a.m. in your time zone.
Yeah.
It'll get released to you. Then you'll have 24 hours to view that
Yeah.
day's segments.
But then also it's worthy to note that for a small upsale, you can actually get all the recordings to keep for ever. It's not very much money, is it, compared to lots of other things? And you also get to have question and answers, don't you, with the speakers, which is kind of fun. So I've signed up this year, so I'm going to come along and see all your other speakers as well. So quite excited about that.
You're a speaker. You're the second time. You're a veteran now. And so as more and more of these come out, it's just a way to, how can I serve? How can I expand my container of healing to others? So if I stay small in my own little bubble, then I'm only going to help a few people. I want to help thousands because it is possible to do this and live the life that you want to live.
Definitely. I think it was before we started recording, wasn't it, when I was talking of my utopian vision of a world where the pharmaceutical industry just isn't there anymore.
Right.
Because we've just discovered that actually we've, with maybe a little bit of help from herbs and plants of the earth, we've got it all within us anyway. Go back in the day, right back in the day when you had the witch doctors and the witches that were persecuted for some God only knows reason. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And you roll your eyes, but you are absolutely right. You follow the threads of money.
Yeah.
I really take a look at. I love my doctors. Now, granted, Gina, if I break my hand, God forbid,
they know a lot.
And I'm going to the doctor to have them reset that. But when it comes to an unknown illness, they're guessing. They're trying as hard as they can to figure it out.
And the missing piece, I watched a really good YouTube talking about pain. It was Dr. Chatterjee and another doctor they were talking about. And they were saying that the medical community, what they're missing is they do all the physical pieces, great. If there's something wrong, we'll take it out. If there's something, but then, like you said, they're flummoxed because they don't go to the emotional point. They don't look a bit deeper and actually say what is. And once we start doing that, which is the work that you and I are doing, really is like, anybody can do this work, but as we've said, it's not like take that pill, do that one exercise and everything's like, oh gosh, life's just a dream. It's like, we dip up and down. But all I can say from sort of still really thick in the middle of my healing journey is I'm up here more than I'm down here. Awesome. And I always know ways that I can get up the scale, and just having these types of conversations just do that. So hopefully that's what your symposium will do, that's what this podcast will do, to get people actually, life doesn't have to be that fear-paced. We can move towards love.
We can rise, and it's 100% up to us. But that gives us, that hope, not from a moment of shame, that we look at disease as happening for us and not to us. That it really gives us an opportunity to wake up and say, okay, who do I want to be? Who am I in this moment? And as you said, is if it takes us a lifetime to discover that, but through that evolution of that discovery, then we walk through that journey with such love and pride and joy and compassion that at the end of it all, we're really looking at it saying, this is who I was, this is who I am.
Mhm.
In that beautiful journey, no matter what we are inflicted with, no matter what comes to us, we look at it and say, this is who I am.
Yeah.
This is who I am being.
And how can I learn more, really? It feels like there's something else that I've missed. There's something else that there's another opportunity out there.
And there's always going to be something beautiful to take a look at.
Yeah.
But really, in this aspect of being in the present moment, because the only time we can live is right now, Gina.
Yeah.
And every listener out there is this present moment right now. The past is gone. Past is the past. Future's not written yet. So the only place I can be is right now with you in this moment, in this beautiful present moment of now. Gratitude for this opportunity to be with you, to be in this beautiful podcast, to speak to your listeners, to have all these moments now. And absolutely this full love. And then in this love is just that compassion and love and joy for this beautiful moment and this opportunity to have a computer, to have a roof over my head, to have a dog that barks while we're on, recording our podcast. Like all this stuff is just being grateful for this moment in who I am.
Definitely. It's I was having a conversation with my mum earlier just about even appreciation. I've started to appreciate my food at a bit of a different level. Just how did that carrot get to be on my plate, and think of the journey that carrot may have had. And if you think about your clothes, and and we were talking about how cheaply they can be made now, how can that possibly be right when you think of all that goes into creating the material, developing the patterns, putting the threads together, then and then they sell it for, I don't know, £.
Right.
And it gets shipped across the world and all, it gets to so many different hands. And it's just...
even today you're in the northern hemisphere and there's snow on the ground, or it's cold outside, and looking at the seasons changing, and maybe a flower that you notice growing amongst everything that it's not supposed to grow, or something, that a moment of something absolutely beautiful, a snowflake or anything, and just showing gratitude for the beautiful creation that this world is.
Yeah. And again, that takes practice. I mean, that's sort of what I'm aiming for in the group that I've got, the Healing Vibrations Network, because it's all about noticing those little moments. I try to capture now, before one of my journaling things is I start with what I forgive myself for, my magical moments, and I try to capture those throughout the day, just little, like you said, little things like you see the sun come up, or the dog licked you, or whatever. And then what am I grateful for, which is similar to the magical moments but not quite. So it's a slightly different sort of change in vibration then, of really appreciating what I've got, as opposed to just appreciation in general, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's those little steps. Nothing big, just little steps, little 1% shifts. And over time, your whole world will change around you. And we look at the surprise of what life brings us in these beautiful moments, because you are possible. We all are possible. And I want to let you guys all know we are enough. Everywhere where you're at right now is enough.
Wow. Well, what a great, I could speak to you all night, Matt, because it's just incredible. We've been speaking probably a bit over the hour, but what a lovely way to sort of finish it off, and what great conversations. I've tried to make a few notes as I come through, but I was too engrossed in what you were saying. So I'll find a way to share it out. But it's live streamed in the group at the moment, and it'll be going live tonight. So
awesome.
And I will share on the links, the link to get the free registration for the symposium. You've got until, well, I suppose we've got until the end of next week, really, haven't you? But if you want to catch, if you want to catch all the recordings, then you want to do it by Monday, really, don't you? Latest.
for $37, you can even access it even into Christmas. It doesn't matter when you, but if you take the what I call the VIP pass, it's only $37.
Yeah.
You can view this for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
This beautiful
absolutely.
information.
Yeah, and it's really good stuff. Last year as well, the summit was excellent and really uplifting, really hopeful. And I know some people as a result came on and worked with me, which was great, and they've up leveled, and I did some testimonials from them earlier this week, and it's just lovely to see this wonderful beaming lady sitting in front of me. And I jokingly said, oh well, it's not all down to the Maps Wellness program, is it? But yes it is, yes it is. Which was really nice.
Look at what you've done. You're rippling out. And this is what the beautiful aspect of being human we get, is to ripple out, knowing that we are enough.
Definitely. Well, do you have time, because I usually like to end with a little maybe mindful exercise, or
Sure.
have you got time to maybe guide us through something to end with?
Absolutely. So do you want me to guide you through a meditation?
That sounds lovely. Maybe just
Wonderful.
5 minutes or something. How does that sound?
Absolutely. I can do that. This will be a really beautiful one for the next 5 minutes. So let me turn on a little bit of music to get things going. So
I don't know if we can hear the music.
It's gonna.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
There you go. So as you are sitting right now, whether you're sitting or standing, I'm going to ask you to take a big deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. I'm going to ask you to do that again, in through your nose and out through your mouth. As you said, I would like you to imagine roots growing from your feet into Mother Earth below. From the hips, you see and feel these roots extending further and further down into the earth below. And as you continue breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, you feel the loving energy coming up from below, from Mother Earth. As you take your deep breath in, I would like you to imagine a bright white light above your head. This light is source. And as you breathe, big, deep breaths, filling your belly and your lungs, you imagine this light slowly starting to drip into the top of your head and fall throughout your body like honey, filling every cell, filling every nerve, filling every aspect of your being. On your next breath in, I would like you to say the words to yourself on your in-breath, I am. And breathing out, enough. Filling this room that you are in, the space that you are in, with that out breath of enough. Breathing in, I am. And breathing out, enough. Breathing in, I am. Breathing out, enough. Feeling that warm, loving, bright light from above, filling your heart, filling every cell, feeling the hum and the tingle throughout your body that this light is giving you with love and compassion. On your next breath in, I would like you to say the words, I am. And on your out breath, love. Filling the room with love. And this love you feel all around you, filling your heart. Breathing in, I am. And breathing out, love. Feeling this love into your heart and into every cell of your being. Knowing that you are enough. Breathing in, I am. And breathing out, love. Feeling this love surround you with every breath that you take. Breathing deeply, we step forward. We take a small step towards this love and feeling within our entire way of being and our love all around us. Take 2 more deep breaths in through your nose. Fill your belly, fill your lungs. Sip a little bit more breath. Sip just a little bit more. Breathing out. Last breath, breathing in. Make this breath the biggest breath you have taken all day. Sipping in a little bit more. Seeing if you can go a little bit more. Filling that belly. Holding it. And breathing out. Now we're going to enter back into the room, but I'm going to invite you to continue taking these deep breaths throughout your evening, throughout your day, and allow these deep breaths to heal you and receive the healing from these breaths. So by wiggling your toes, feeling the earth, your fingers, feeling your palms, and rubbing your hands on the tops of your legs, fully feeling this moment of now, this present moment that is around us all. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes and enter back into the room.
Wow, that's very lovely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that was well
for
cool.
receiving it.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Matt. It's been, I knew it would be a great interview, but it's been an amazing interview. And yeah, I can't wait to put it out there and shout about it a bit more, because there's some real gems in there that we covered. So yeah.
You are amazing, Gina. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And yeah, well, we shall do it again.
Sounds wonderful. I can't wait. I love you, and we will do it again.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. So let me.
Thank you.